working his way through relationships and human psychology. Sahil is an associate director with KPMG in India and partners with their tax practice. He addresses the human capital challenges and provides end-to-end employee lifecycle solutions. Employer branding, culture and capability are his forte. An avid reader, teaching is his passion. On weekends you will find him at a B-school sharing his perspectives with budding talent, unwinding over some contemporary thought leadership or finding humans within human beings. At leisure, he explores and traverses treacherous roads over various genres of music. Ladies and gentlemen, can you put our hands together for Mr. Sahil Nayar?
We'll just give this a minute. How are you standing here so long? Nice to see your face.
The difference is height.
So I need to get down. Thanks for that suggestion. Alright, hopefully we should get that up. Very good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Let's do it one more time. Very good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All the sleeping beauties in the back, all the wonderful people in the front. It's an absolute pleasure being here. This almost feels like a celebrity. I can't even see you guys out there. So I'm going to come down in a bit while I get my slide up. I have one good news and one bad news for you. What do you want to hear first? Bad news? Okay. So the bad news is actually a precursor to the good news, but anyway, I'll tell you the bad news first. So the bad news is that you need to get your phones out, you need to take pictures, you need to take videos, and you need to remain awake for the next 21 minutes. At best, I'll cut it down to 17 minutes so that we can have more of interaction, less of a monologue, and more of a dialogue. Okay, if that was the bad news, the good news is that I have no presentation. So no PPT. I'm not going to bore you to death with a presentation because with due respect to all my previous speakers and the ones coming up next, I'm a firm believer of the fact that you use a PowerPoint when you don't have power in your points. Okay? So I'm going to keep it as crisp as possible, and hopefully you've got the one slide ready for me. And technology always fails you, so in spite of having just one slide, I'm still grappling with technology. But when Praveen called me a couple of months back and said, Sahil, we're doing these awards, will you be kind enough to come in post-lunch? And I said, wow, you know, it just seemed to be plagued with coming post-lunch. And I said, okay, who are the other speakers? Who is coming? Where is it happening? Given the kind of traffic in Bombay, and this is what a couple of us are discussing right now before lunch, saying that we sign up for events when we really know where the venue is, right? Because otherwise getting to one end of the city, another end of the city, you end up spending so many hours traveling that it's not really worth your while. So I said, okay, great, I'll do it post-lunch. And then he said, you know, these are the other speakers who are coming. And I thought to myself, what is more difficult? Is it more difficult to do a session post-lunch Or is it more difficult to get sandwiched between two fantastic speakers, Harini and Colin, both very dear friends? So I said, this challenge seems a lot more difficult. So me being me, I said, let me pick up this challenge of getting sandwiched between two fantastic speakers, one you've already heard, and the one coming up next. And I'll do a small gig of 17 odd minutes. And as I said, I want to get connected to you guys. Do we have it ready, my friends, or are we still struggling?
They are bringing organizations to the light.
Yeah, they're bringing organizations to life, but before I brought organizations to life, I wanted to bring you guys to life. So hopefully I have this connected now, and the HDMI cable just gets connected. While it does get connected, and I'm hopeful it will, can I request all of you all to get your phones out, get your data, mobile data switched on, open Chrome, Safari, whatever you have, and go on to Menti, M-E-N-T-I, menti.com. M-E-N-T-I, menti.com. And while the screen will just populate what you throw up, once you log on to menti.com, I'm hopeful all of you all have, it's going to ask you for a code. And the code that you need to enter is 206437. 206437. Right? Everyone get on to menti.com. M-E-N-T-I, menti.com. The code is 206437. Fantastic. Thank you so much, my friend. And we have one person who's already voted. Jinko samajh mein nahi aa raha hai. All those guys who won awards today, please don't think you're winning an award. Okay, it's like a normal day. You just come for an HR event. So, are you on top? If you're on top of the world, it's not because you won an award, right? So, negate that aspect. You can still change your answer if you want to. Are you on top of the world today? Is it just another day? Yeah, हम इतना पक गए हैं कि please यार next slide दिखाओ, हमें घर जाना है, right? How are you feeling right now is the question we are asking. We've got 42 responses right now. Once again, a sincere request, please don't carry the baggage of you having won an award. And I'm intentionally using the word baggage, right? On top of the world, and most important, I'm assuming most of the guys here are HR guys. Please be honest to yourself. You don't need to be honest to me, but be honest to yourself. Are you on top of the world? Is it just another day? Or next slide, please. How are you feeling right now? We've hit half a century. I'm assuming there are 10 more people in the room. No one from outside is going to be voting. The code is only available with you. We're 55. We'll stop at 60. I don't think so. Oh, we're 56. All right. All right, all right, all right. 4 more to go. Anyone who still hasn't voted, a great opportunity for you to get your phones out and participate and make the next 16 minutes absolutely interactive. 3 more to go. Do we have 60 in the room? Organizers? Organizers are outside, it seems. Okay, let's stop at 57. So that's a wonderful mix there. So 25 people, I'm assuming once again, are those who have either won awards or not won awards. Keeping that aside, they are still feeling on top of the world. An equal number, the number just went up from 24 to 25. Oh, it again went down. Just another day, and 8 people say next slide, please. Thank you for that. Let me just get the presentation off. I don't need the presentation anymore. So think about it, right? A super boss of mine once told me that organizations are all about leader energies. And if this is the energy in the room, think back and ask yourself, irrespective of how many monometers we might do, how much of time we may spend to gauge what's the pulse on the floor, or do one-on-one sessions with our employees, if we, as leaders, carry one of those 3 energies, how is it going to truncate to the larger audience who we are the face for? Be it right in the beginning when you're hiring someone, be it through the employee life cycle, or even be it towards the end when we're losing someone to competition only with the hope that he's going to come back and rejoin us someday. I'm a very, very firm believer that each one of us carry a vibe, a very, very strong vibe within us. And therefore we say when someone walks into the room, I like that person. On what basis do we say that? Is it intellect? Is it emotion? Is it spiritual quotient? Is it gut? I don't know. But what I definitely do know is that we all have a vibe. We all have a vibe, and the show must go on like they say, and we will continue irrespective of what happens. And then, what ends up hitting you more often than not is essentially the fact that if a particular person has a fantastic vibe about him or her, why is it that person B, who may or may not be as pleasing or appealing, doesn't have that vibe? And what does it take to get that vibe that helps people gravitate towards you, right? And therefore, I'm going to modulate my voice now, given that the mics come back on. What does it take for people to gravitate towards you? Because at the end of the day, locus of control being internal or external, you would still want to be in the limelight. More often than not for reasons good as compared to bad, right? I'm going to share with you very quickly 3 short stories from my life. A disclaimer, being a typical consultant, these stories might be unique to my life, but the learnings from them are out there for you to know. They are learnings that you will resonate with at the end of the stories, because in some way or form, you would have experienced them as well, right? The first story, and I want to get the names right. The first story is about Shanta, Supriya, and me. Yeah? 3 characters in the story: Shanta, Supriya, and myself. I don't want to name the carrier, but I was flying one of the carriers and seated 29th row, 29F, I vividly remember. And as you know, F is obviously the center seat, right? It was a Bombay to Delhi flight, 6 o'clock in the morning. Very typical, mosquitoes in the cabin. Can't help, can't do much. Can't get the mosquitoes out, because by the time you get them out, you reach Delhi. So it's not worth a battle worth fighting. So you let that be. You get served, obviously it was a low-cost airline, so you get served full-fledged breakfast. A cup of tea comes my way. I request for another sachet of sugar. That too comes my way. I was feeling slightly under the weather. We're traversing 35,000 feet, 800 miles per hour. The journey is about getting in. I don't get sleep on a flight. Fast forwarding the story, I want a little bit more chai, so I request the lady for a cup of tea. Shanta is the lady on this flight. She looks at me when I ask her for a second cup of tea and says, sure. That's all she says. Now there's a difference between what she says and what I hear, because as we all know, there's an element of body language that gets added to what she's saying. And in that sure that she said, I almost felt like a criminal, right? Because I felt I was making her do something which was way beyond what she actually wanted to do, which meant she had to walk all the way back, get a sachet of sugar, and serve it back to me. Needless, she did that. My flight wasn't very pleasant. I didn't have too many expectations. By now, you would have guessed which carrier that was. And to the end of it, when she actually gave me the sachet, I felt like telling her, you feel really tired going up and down. Why don't you take my seat and I'll stand up, right? Hitting her late 50s, I think so she was doing reasonably well for herself. Shanta was that for you. Another carrier, Supriya, the lady this time. I enter, again, it was a 6:37 early morning flights. I'm absolutely groggy early in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl. You keep me awake the whole night. I'm cool. Getting me up on an early morning flight takes a big toll on me. Supriya is here. Again, a carrier that offers you food. Same terminal, T2 in Bombay, Bombay to Delhi. Supriya comes up, offers me tea with breakfast and says, sir, an additional sachet of sugar for you. Believe you me, the gap between these two flights was 3 weeks. When I took the first flight with Shanta and with Supriya now, 3 weeks. I was not even in my senses, I was still sleepy and I'm having my chai, and she says, an extra sachet of sugar for you. And Ranveer, you will know that anybody who does that to you, you'll be surprised, right? You're impressed, you're surprised, words don't stop, you're wondering, who the hell is this woman? Why is she serving me an extra sachet? All of that. And being the innocent guy that I am, I tried to make contact with who she was and read her name plate, and I said, okay. So I said, thank you so much, Supriya. What made you believe that I would want an extra sachet without asking for it? And she said, you flown with us earlier. And I do remember that you like an extra sachet of sugar with your tea. Now for a minute, I sat back and I said, okay, IoT happening, blockchain happening, artificial intelligence happening, Internet of Things, blah, 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 blah. I still couldn't put all of that together to think, how does this woman there flying 160 people, 4 times a day, different cities, remember that I flew this airline in the last 1 month and I had asked for an extra sachet of sugar. Of course, it can't be any of those. It can't be artificial intelligence. It can't be machine learning. What is it? At the end of the flight, I went back and I asked, I said, sorry, but this has just flabbergasted me. I know in the hotel industry they have analytics that help them remember that Mr. Nayar checked into Taj Lands End. He spent 3 days, 4 nights here. This is what he liked, this is what he ordered, everything gets recorded. There is a system at the back end. The next time I check in, they know where I want my slippers on the left hand of the bed, right hand of the bed, all of that. Understandable. But on a flight, how on earth can you do that? And Supriya tells me, you know what? My job is going to be redundant in the next couple of years. Because today, on autopilot, flights can take off and land on their own. The only reason for us to have a pilot in the cockpit is to ensure that socially people feel safe that there is a pilot flying an aircraft. Otherwise, don't get me started on the stories that I can tell you of what happens inside a cockpit. And that's exactly what she said. So crazy stuff happens in a cockpit, and then I said, okay, let me go back in YouTube, and I went in YouTube, what happens in a cockpit? And you must do that. You get really interesting stories. Okay? So if flights can fly without captains navigating them or first officers navigating them, in her mind, she's saying my only USP today where I can differentiate myself from everybody else on this flight is to have an elephant's memory. And she has done a course from Harvard Business School on photographic memory, which means she actually remembers the face of an individual and tags it with a preference in her mind. Brilliant, right? Now, will I sit down and make a difference between what does airline 1 cost me versus airline 2? Of course not. I'm blindly sold to airline 2. If I had my way, I would want to know which flight Supriya is on so that I could be on that flight, right? That's the kind of impact that individual has had on me, not for any other reason, not for the organization supporting, not for her looking good, for all you care, but for a simple reason that she knew my preference and personalized a cup of tea to me. And therefore I found her so fantastic, right? So in this whole era of human resources that we talk about, blockchain, AI, machine learning, all of that, I think human connect and human experience is definitely here to stay. And human experience can only be if Supriya was also like me, someone who hated up getting up in the morning at 6 o'clock, but yet brought her best self to work at 6 a.m. on that flight. She's definitely doing something different that Sahil isn't, or that each one of us in this room aren't. And therefore, what is the takeaway? Story number 1. Very quickly, story number 2 is about Ram and Rohan. This story I draw from my previous erstwhile organization, which is essentially about getting the best on board and not telling them what to do. More often than not, we as leaders manage to get the best people on board. Yeah, we pay them good money, leverage them to a great brand, as Harini said, sell them a great role, but then start micromanaging to such an extent that we really breathe down their throat. And that is when things go wrong. So what's extremely important is to keep the life alive, is to let the person breathe. And you can only breathe when you ensure that at all times, let people play to their strengths. Being an MBTI practitioner myself, I do understand from a design thinking approach and NLP perspective, how do you really get people to be alive? Why is there someone higher on potential, higher on performance? When you superimpose the skill-will matrix, the guy is not optimum and he's not your ninja. Vis-a-vis someone who's still grappling, tier 3, tier 4 city, comes to Bombay, gives his heart, brain, body, soul, mind, and still does as good, if not better, as compared to candidate 1. Think about it, they are reflection points. And then you realize that this person is in an ecosystem that allows him or her to be who they are. And that's extremely important. If we are able to get the pulse of realizing what our people are and let them be in an ecosystem like they are or want to be, they will see. Today, more important than not, what's happening is that there's a huge disconnect between organizations and individuals' lives. And therefore, when we get to work, we don't see a mirror image of what society is. A classic case in point, I'm sitting at home, YouTube knows what I want to see next. How? My preference. It recommends stuff to me. And when I go to office, I need to log in a ticket. The ticket needs to get assigned. Instead of going to an IT engineer, it goes to a VC engineer. I'm frustrated. Right? Why do I need to log into my laptop every morning? Hello? If I can unlock my phone with my retina, why can't my office laptop get unlocked with my retina? I'm just saying, mirror society, mirror organizations. I think corporate India has a long way to go to bridge that gap. Story number 3. And this story is a really, really painful story. So I'm going to take a little bit of courage and gumption while I share it. This story is about 2 Sikhnis, Punjabi Sikhnis. One Parminder and one Harinder. Okay, the name is very confusing. Both are ladies, Parminder and Harvinder. One of them was a student of mine who I taught when I was doing my guest lecture series at one of the B schools. So they kept in touch, and obviously this happened just 2 weeks back. Both of them worked for the same organization. I'm not going to name the organization. But when the first one went on maternity leave, she had a very difficult time because it was a typical Lala company. The boss didn't allow her to go on leave, and I'm going to call it P and H for simplicity's sake. So P didn't get to go on her mat leave, was not given extended mat leave, just 2 months. Difficult times, she was heading HR. H was working with P, reporting into P, part of the HR team itself. Now look at this, how things play out. She went through a particular treatment because of the Lala, saying no mat leave, no paid leave, minimum amount of time, so on and so forth. Now how a woman hits a woman is incredible. It's difficult to even believe unless you don't hear such stories up close. When H wanted to go on mat leave, which is the second lady, she went to her boss, who was P, and P said, sorry, we don't have a policy of mat leave. Max that you can take is 1 month. H is shocked. She goes back to my notes that I had taught her during her MBA days, which was around 3 to 4 years back, reads up those notes, updates herself on the latest Maternity Benefits Act, calls me up, saying, sir, I'm in this situation. I feel I'm being targeted. My work is being spoken about, saying I'm not diligent in my work, I'm messing up my work, so on and so forth. Can you please help me? For a minute, I didn't even know how to react. I thought the whole feminist is about a woman protecting a woman, standing up against society, and here a woman is targeting a woman because of a particular treatment being meted out to her. So I took a couple of minutes, I said, okay, hold on, give me a construct of how does your organization work, who are the leaders at the top, what is your role? So I understood the ecosystem in a nutshell, and I went back to her and I said, Worst case scenario, we go to labor court. And she says, are you sure? I said, I don't need to be sure, you need to be sure. Are you clear you want to fight this battle? And do you think in your life it's a battle worth fighting? The easiest thing for you to do is quit, leave the job, sit at home, nurture a well-grown, healthy kid. Or the other option is saying no. It's a matter of principles, it's a matter of my life, it's a matter of what I believe in, and irrespective of the stress, I will try my best to still give birth to a healthy child. You'll be extremely happy to know she's just delivered a baby boy last week, and she fought the entire case, and she's doing well now. Now when I sit back and I reflect, two ladies, a difference of around 10 years between themselves. The first one gave in to the clutches of a typical Lala. The second one said, no, I won't. One message that really stays back with me from this story, which I've experienced from very close quarters, is many a times we as leaders give in to the grey. The black and the white is very easy to differentiate, but I think we as leaders give in to the grey. And those who can really stick their neck out when we are in the grey are really the true leaders. It was an absolute pleasure being here with you today. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for your time.